Hello everyone. Us humans have come a long way from our past ancestors and their civilizations. From technological innovations like the device you're watching this video on, to the vast social and moral differences that we look past in utter belief, modern times are partly the way they are due to our past ancestors making these discoveries and learning from them to better innovate. When we're taught about past civilizations, we're given the general understanding that they made some revolutionary discovery, invention, or form of architecture and how it's extremely important to our history, as well as their general history, like wars and empires or rulers that were important to their history. Aside from that, we really don't learn much regarding how their way of life was and how it was vastly differed from ours today. The amount of liberty these past civilizations had led them to make these questionable customs and traditions as no one else tried them before. Like, think about the guy who discovered cow milk was something you can actually consume. What was going through his mind to examine the cows of a udder? And matter of fact, what even led him to drinking that? We can assume it to be a mix of curiosity, free will, and no dated record of the same event that led them to pursue their interests. And now we all get to enjoy cereal because of them, so thank you. I think it's really hard to imagine what past humans were capable of doing for the pursuit of better developed systems in our society. So I have compiled 4 ancient civilizations from around the world and traditions special to them that accurately display this better idea of understanding our past civilizations. Side note, if my voice sounds extremely weird, it probably is because I woke up with a very sore throat. Here's some past takes trying to do the intro for this script. If my voice sounds a little weird, it may be because I have a sore throat, I don't know. It's been pretty cold here. But yeah, let's just jump into it. It's terrible. Hello everyone. So, I hope you can excuse God. Modern times are partly the way they are due to our past ancestors making these discoveries and learning from them. God. The ancient Egyptians are widely known for their great pyramids and diverse religion and culture that were the focal points of their lives. They had a hierarchy built around the pharaohs and gods that they actively worshipped, and had many great innovations such as papyrus scrolls, hieroglyphics, and much more. But they also had a police force made up of baboons that assisted in the capturing of criminals. The Egyptians believed that a police force made up of the highly esteemed baboons were efficient due to their speed, ability to jump to places that are difficult for humans to reach, and their great memories that can remember the faces of the criminals. They can even be found in several Egyptian hieroglyphs capturing criminals. Now, the use of animals in law enforcement isn't a new idea to the modern world, like dogs, obviously, but seeing as how baboons had far more power and liberty in the capturing of criminals is quite hilarious. I would have loved to have known how the ancient Egyptians figured out baboons were capable enough to work in law enforcement, but I digress. Baboons in themselves were pretty important to the Egyptian society as they were kept as pets as well. So that could possibly be why or how it led them to becoming a police force. I couldn't find any information on how efficient these task forces were, but I would imagine them causing a lot more fear among criminals. Like if Batman was a baboon, or like a 5-star wanted level in GTA, but you are just hunted by baboons. Dang, looks like I need to commit a life of crime to support my impoverished family. Wanna help me? Are you fucking serious? Those baboons are on the prowl and I ain't risking anything with those relentless bastards on the prowl. Matter of fact, never speak to me again or I'll report you to the baboons. The ancient Greeks were a civilization commonly associated with their extremely popular gods, their innovative and realistic sculptures, and the Parthenon, a historical and architectural landmark. They were truly ahead of their time, home to a lot of philosophers and inventions that put them way ahead of the curve. This did not exempt them from questionable traditions that were common in their lifetime. Tackling the issue of hygiene, specifically what to do after you blow up the bathroom, the Greeks believed that pebbles and broken ceramic pieces were the best way to wipe the back end. They probably just saw them lying around and just even decided, well, I guess you're gonna make me cleaner. I can't stop imagining myself from thinking what would happen if it were to get stuck. I'm sorry I had to tell you that, but if I had to think about it, I guess you had to as well. Word about toilet paper from ancient China hasn't spread to the Greeks yet, unfortunately for them. But the ancient Greeks were likely to be the first civilization to create the yo-yos, so I'll look past their poor choice in alternative toilet papers just for that. The Romans were quite a formidable and prosperous empire, having the time to focus on innovating their makeup industry. These quote-unquote innovations were mainly using some part of an animal and covering themselves in it. We're talking swan's fat, crocodile poop, and the ashes of snails, which I don't get how they even decided to pick such an obscure material. Ancient Romans considered pale skin to be an extremely attractive trait, which of course means smattering crocodile poop all over your face. The Romans mainly borrowed a lot of their cultural traditions from past civilizations, like the Greeks and Egyptians, in their arts, architecture, and unfortunately makeup traditions. The use of swan fat, crocodile poo, and the ashes of snails were all standards used by the Egyptians that the Romans were unfortunate in discovering and bringing back, thought to treat wrinkles and to get rid of freckles by the Egyptians. Additionally, the Romans used public bathrooms and designed them like a social gathering event with no stalls, and they used tersoriums, a sponge with a stick attached to it used to clean the back end, which is a vastly great improvement from the Greeks that the Romans were smart enough to realize how stupid it was to not use, thankfully. This did not stop them from still spreading diseases in the public bathrooms due to how unsanitary these were. I don't know about you, but I'm glad we ruled out the idea of no stalls in our bathrooms at a very early time in history, or we could be having a staring contest while taking shits right now. With a lot of Eastern Hemisphere societies out of the way, let's talk about the Western world. Prior to the discovery of the Western world by the European powers, the Western world were home to a lot of vast and diverse civilizations, such as the Iroquois, the Chinooks, tribes that were home to what is now modern-day America, to the Aztecs, being located in the northern half of Mexico. The Aztecs were a civilization known for their specializations in the canoe and accurate forms of calendars, but were also taught their level of barbarism, often being associated with human sacrifice to their gods in order to get great weather conditions for their crops. Choosing to go with a lesser known topic, I discovered the things Aztec children had to deal with growing up. Think you had a tough childhood being the child of a single mother with a non-existent father to bond with? Wrong. The Aztec children had extremely strict rules to follow, and the punishments were quite disproportionate. We're talking kids being dangled over fires for their misbehavior, boys being publicly shamed for never capturing anyone, lazy kids being burned with firebrands, and the children of high-ranking nobles being starved and tortured, as well as being ordered to cut themselves. This theme of extreme strictness made sense considering that the Aztecs were a civilization made of warriors that were often fierce and formidable, so their children were naturally going to be molded into that societal expectation. I'm just glad these practices were dropped and we evolved into good old beatings with the belt as our modern forms of discipline. Hopefully, I hope no one else dangles their children over fires. So yeah, these ancient civilizations weren't all that advanced that we hyped them up to be, but thanks to them we get to enjoy the rewards of their mistakes. I believe that by focusing on their flaws we gain a better understanding of how we as a whole developed and why we stopped doing things a certain way, as well as adding a more interesting understanding to these ancient civilizations instead of associating them with something boring and surface level. If there's any lesson I want you guys to take away, it's that you should be thankful to the ancient Chinese that they invented toilet paper, or we would probably be using rocks to clean ourselves.